Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we got some sad news. News that we just came out 16 hours ago. Senator Jean Carnahan has passed away. Carnahan was the very first woman to represent the state of Missouri in the U.S. Senate. She will be dearly missed. As I said, will be part of our honorary series where we honor every U.S. politician, regardless of their political uh, affiliation, putting our prejudices and criticisms towards them aside, uh, and actually acknowledging um, the work and just how God created these people are, because God loves these politicians. We may not like them, or we may not love, or we may hate them, or we don't have to like them, but we are called to love them as human beings. So we are looking over here at Senator Jean Carnahan. She's the very not only is she the very first woman to be elected to the Missouri Senate, not the Missouri Senate, but the U.S. Senate, but she was also the very first politician to die this year. 31 days in the new year. I think she died on the 30th, but yes, we just got news of that. This is where I find all my information. On the 30th, not politician from U.S. Senate, First Lady of Missouri. So yeah, she is also the First Lady. That said, and we'll be kind of talking about how she came to how she received her power in the United States Senate. So she was the husband of Governor Carnahan, and that is Mel Carnahan. He was the United States Senator elect from Missouri. He actually never got to assume office. Instead, I don't know what ended up happening, but uh, so let's just say here, I think 2000 this article here in 2000, he ran for the U.S. Senate against incumbent John Ashcroft in a hotly contested election. During the final weeks of the campaign, Carnahan was killed in a plane crash while on his way to a campaign event. He was post posthumously elected. He was elected. I'm going to skip that word. He was elected to the U.S. Senate, and his widow, Jean Carnahan, was appointed to serve in the U.S. in the Senate until a special election was held in 2002. So wow, I mean, final weeks of the campaign, he was already on the ballot, and he was killed right before that campaign, right before the election. Who would have known? Yeah, so Carnahan, they ended up voting for him anyway, despite being dead. Let's see, this election was held on November 7th, and he died on October 16th. So yeah, he was dead, unfortunately. And I don't know if these were early votes, but he ended up winning. I think he won out of sympathy, and I don't blame them. I mean, I completely understand. But um, I kind of wouldn't vote out of sympathy, because really this is an election. I would feel horrible for Miss Carnahan, and you would think uh Jean Carnahan would be super happy. No, she wasn't. It's everything. She would want her husband back. She would care less at getting the position in the United States Senate to therefore fill in for her husband that cannot serve. So I could imagine the great pain that would be. And hereby, in 2002, uh, she was defeated in 2002 by Jim Talent, by 1%. I would imagine she would be defeated because she's not a politician once again. She almost won. She only lost by 1.1%. Uh, uh, that was sort of the margin of error. I wouldn't say margin of error, but the margin there. But yes, she was there defeated. So she didn't really have an electoral history at all. She kind of followed her husband. Really, I don't want to make this about Mel Carnahan, which I know really is a because I mean that's kind of her background. She's in Missouri. She's the first lady of the governor that died in the plane crash. That's what the people in Missouri would say. Um, and yes, that's right. He was governor, and he was a pretty popular one, too. He won landslides for the Democratic Party. And I know the 1990s was pretty big for Democrats in Missouri. They will continue to tell you. In 1990 presidential elections, oh boy, Clinton won Missouri by a lot. So yeah, Mel Carnahan. And then previously, Carnahan was the lieutenant governor of Missouri. And also the state treasurer. So yeah, he's been in politics, a face in Missouri for years. But this isn't about Mel Carnahan. And if he had died, I would show so much support, and no doubt about it. But his death has been beyond tragic, especially for Jean Carnahan, who had to see her husband die in the worst way possible. Well, not the worst way. There's many other worse ways, but that's definitely a really tragic way to die in a plane crash. And for Jean Carnahan, I can't imagine she would feel a lot of guilt, because she could feel like, I bet she felt like she should have been on that plane too, um, to spend her final moments with him. So that is Jean Carnahan. She doesn't really have much of an electoral history. She died in a hospice facility. And anyway, I want to conclude this video, but for basically saying that I feel bad for Miss Carnahan. Just basically lay her family be at peace during this time. I have no doubt about it that she is happy. And finally reunited with her husband. During this during this time. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next political episode. Rest in peace, Miss Carnahan.